I'm Lynn Brunelle, author of Life After Whale, the amazing ecosystem of a whale fall.
And I'm Jason Chin, illustrator of Life After Whale. And we want to thank you
And we want to thank you
for choosing us
for the Cook Prize.
Thanks to everyone at Bank Street.
And all the kids all over the world who read this book and voted for us.
It really means a lot to us. You know, a lot of kids want to know how this book came to be. What inspired it? How did you write and make the art? Well, we're going to tell you. Lynn's going to talk about writing the book, and then I'll talk about doing the illustrations. Take it away, Lynn.
When I come up with an idea for a book to write, it's usually a question that I want answered. And a few years ago on this beach, a gray whale stranded itself. It was a really big deal for the community. It was really sad. Why did the animal strand itself? What happens when big animals like whales die? So it got me asking a lot of questions and doing a lot of research, and I discovered that there's this whole world that we never even knew about. They're called whale falls. And so I started thinking, blue whales, biggest animals ever on the planet. How big is blue whale big? How big is a blue whale? That's big. 3 school buses long. That's over 100 feet. It's big. And they're heavy too. They weigh 150 tons. Think about it. An elephant maybe weighs 2 or 3 tons. So that's a lot of tons in a whale. They're big. What happens when a blue whale lives a beautiful, happy, long life and then dies? In nature, they sink down to the bottom of the sea. Now at the bottom of the sea, there's not a lot of living things going on there because the food is pretty bad. It's fish, poop, and dead skin cells. It's like not a lot going on down there. But when a whale dies, can you imagine? It's a feast. Boom! That lands down there and lasts for over 2 centuries. It's amazing. It starts a cascade of life. You get the first responders, you've got sharks, you've got hagfish, which are these like, slippery little arm-length eels that are pink and they're gooey and they dive in head first and they eat all the soft flesh. And then other animals come in and they feed on the bones. And then other animals come in and they feed on the things that feed on the bones. And so you've got this beautiful succession of life that lasts over generations and generations with thousands of different species that can only be found on a whale fall. And in the end, at the end, when you've only got a skeleton, the bones are off the ground, I don't know, maybe that high. You've got anemones that are living up there, sending their eggs up into the water that are then lifted up. Plankton eat the eggs, and then krill comes along, and krill eats the plankton, and krill is what blue whales eat when they're migrating. So generations later, these nutrients are being recycled back into the same stream, back into the same creatures, the same species that started the whole thing. It's fascinating. But that's really just the beginning of the story of how this book got made, because the amazing Jason Chin, who is the illustrator of this book, he brought this idea to life on the page as only he can. So I'm going to toss it over to you, Jason. It's all you.
Thanks, Lynn. When I received Lynn's manuscript with all of its amazing facts, I started to imagine pictures to go along with it. Now, as I was imagining them, I realized I had a lot to learn. See, I didn't know what all of those undersea creatures looked like. I didn't really know what a blue whale looked like. And even the surface of the ocean was hard for me to imagine accurately. So I started looking for pictures, for photographic reference material. I found pictures of all those underwater creatures. I found pictures of whale falls and so on. But one of my favorite parts of doing research was going to see the real thing for myself. I went to Monterey Bay, California, and went on a whale watch. Now, on this whale watch, I learned what the ocean looked like, what whales looked like. I learned about all the different creatures that were swimming in the bay that weren't whales, like sea lions and birds. Now, we saw humpback whales, which were enormous, but they were only half the size, or maybe even less than half the size, of a blue whale. After the whale watch, I went up to Santa Cruz, California, and got a sense of how big a blue whale really is. There's a blue whale skeleton on display there, and I got to look right up close at it. It is So big. In fact, to see the whole thing, I had to stand way back. After my research trip, I came home and started drawing. One of the first things I did was make a plan for what will go on each page of the book. So here is the storyboard. This is a plan for which picture will go where. You can see the pictures are small, so I planned using, they're called thumbnail sketches. I planned using thumbnail sketches. After the storyboard was done, I did larger drawings and put them together into a book dummy. The book dummy is a way of testing out the illustrations, testing out my ideas. And after I looked through this book dummy, I made some changes. I made another book dummy. In this one, I added the text. You see, the text is there next to the picture. But even with this one, I had ideas for changes. You can see all my notes, things I wanted to improve. Well, eventually we got to a much larger book dummy. And this one, you can see, is much closer to the final book. The drawings are more detailed and so forth. There were still a few changes to make. When I was satisfied with my book dummies, then it was time to paint. I paint in watercolor, and I paint on a thick watercolor paper. So here is a final illustration. This illustration took me about 3 days to make, and there are maybe 25 or 30 illustrations in the book, and the whole process took about a year, doing all the research and all the planning and then the final art. Well, thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks again for choosing us for the Cook Prize. We're really honored.
Bye-bye.
Bye.